The transmission began with static, then screaming. A strange voice, clearly alien, crackled through deep space frequencies. Its tone was panicked, broken, desperate. Do not engage. Bet. Do not engage the humans. Their weapon. It doesn't. Obey. It's not right. It erased an entire cruiser wing. They didn't even aim properly. Then the signal cut. The Galactic Council received the message just before it vanished into a black data hole. At first, the diplomats and commanders laughed. It had to be a prank. It's a distorted frequency from some border pirate trying to stir chaos. But then, more reports came in. From different systems. All describing the same thing. A new, human weapon. Impossible, random, devastating. The Zarketh Dominion had never feared humans. To them, Earth was a backwater, loud, emotional, chaotic. Humanity was still figuring out gravity tech when the rest of the galaxy was folding space. Their weapons, old-fashioned, kinetic-based, bullets and explosives, crude stuff. So when the Zarketh sent a scout fleet to monitor the Sol system, they didn't send much. Just 5 medium-class destroyers and a single data drone. None of them returned. On board the Zarketh flagship, Judgment of Steel, Commander Threx watched the footage again. Over and over, the humans had deployed what looked like a cannon. It wasn't on a warship. It was mounted on an old space station, orbiting Saturn. The weapon itself was messy, uneven. Glowing panels stuck together with visible welds. Exposed wiring. Parts that looked like they were scavenged from mining rigs. One alien officer had even laughed. It looks like a cargo loader got drunk and built a telescope. But then it fired. There was no sound in space. It's just a sudden pulse of violet light. Like a camera flash stretched across dimensions, and then 3 destroyers vanished. No explosion, no debris. No radiation, just ... gone. Commander Threx leaned forward. Rewind it, he barked. The tech officer obeyed. The footage played again. The weapon pulsed. The ships blinked out. Scan analysis, Threx asked. Nothing. No energy buildup. No heat. No known signatures. And how do you explain that? I don't, Commander. On Earth, the human response was quiet. Too quiet. The Global Defense Council issued a single statement. Engagement was defensive. The prototype performed within expected parameters. They called it a prototype. That word echoed through the galaxy like thunder. Back in orbit above Saturn, the weapon sat idle. To outsiders, it looked abandoned. But deep inside the station, one man sat alone in the control room, Dr. Lewis. Kane. He sipped stale coffee and stared at the blinking interface. You really fired, he whispered to the machine. Wasn't expecting that. Project WTF, as it had been jokingly named, started as a late-night bet between underfunded engineers. They had found something odd, an encrypted signal buried deep in old NASA recordings. A signal repeated, always distorted, always in strange tones. When decoded, it gave instructions, schematics, numbers that didn't make sense, patterns that didn't match known math. Nobody took it seriously. Until they built the emitter. Then things got weird. Test, in low orbit, caused every nearby drone to invert its magnetic field. The second test melted a nearby moon probe without touching it. By the third test, it erased a satellite from memory, from databases, from history. And now it had erased 3 alien warships. Dr. Kane sighed. You're not a weapon. You're something else. He looked at the console. It wasn't glowing. No. Noise. Just calm. Peaceful. But every so often, the screen flickered like the machine was dreaming far across the stars. In the Council's war chamber, voices clashed. It was a glitch-human exaggeration. 3 ships don't just vanish because of exaggeration. Send a larger force. Crush them. Or maybe talk to them. No, the Zarketh will not beg. The Zarketh were proud. Always had been. Their empire was built on cold logic. Overwhelming firepower and zero tolerance for unpredictability. They didn't believe in luck, or chaos, or dumb things. But the humans had just used something dumb and made it deadly. The Council approved a follow-up fleet. This time, 12. Destroyers, 3 cruisers, and 1 command dreadnought. The mission: test Earth's defenses, eliminate the anomaly, retrieve the tech. If possible, the fleet exited warp just beyond Saturn's orbit. The weapon didn't move. Admiral Vren of the dreadnought, Fury's echo, smirked from his bridge. They really left it unguarded. One officer looked nervous. I still don't understand how it works. We never will, Vren growled. If we tiptoe around like frightened scavengers... He ordered an attack. Missiles launched. Plasma beams streaked through space. The weapon didn't react. One missile got close. Too close, then dash light. The same violet pulse, but this time different. Only one cruiser vanished. The others, they stopped. Mid-movement, engines frozen, weapons offline, crews still alive but unmoving. Ships locked in space, like statues. Admiral Varen screamed across the comms, demanding action. Then came a signal, not from Earth, not from the weapon, from inside the Fury's echo itself, a low hum, not mechanical, musical, like a choir underwater. The crew clutched their heads. No pain, just strange visions, memories not their own. Images of Earth, children, playing, old cities, music, laughter. It was as if the weapon was showing them humanity. Then silence, and all systems shut down. Later, Earth would find the crippled. Alien ships floating, untouched. They would send rescue pods, recover the crews, offer medical aid. One alien captain, half conscious, whispered to the human nurse. It sang to me. It showed me. Back on Earth, Dr. Kane sat alone, staring at the interface. The weapon blinked softly. He leaned forward. "What are you really?" the screen answered. For the first time, a message. Just one line, protecting home. He didn't know whether to laugh or panic. The dumbest weapon ever built by accident. From broken parts, and a mystery signal had just protected Earth. In a way no one could explain, and the galaxy had noticed. Humanity, once dismissed, now sat at the center of fear, curiosity, awe. But this was only the beginning, because the weapon had fired on its own. The Galactic Council was in chaos. Every species with a voice in the chamber was speaking at once, hissing, shouting, buzzing. Their translators struggled to keep up. Holograms of warships floated above the round table, rotating slowly. In the center, the Earth weapon. A Zarketh general stood up, his scaled fists slamming the table. It must be destroyed. This human device is a threat to the galaxy. A diplomat from the Valari, a peaceful telepathic race, shook her head. It didn't destroy your fleet. It disabled it. It's left your crews alive. That is not war. That is something else. Another voice crackled from a black and gold terminal. An AI representative from the machine world. Cold, logical, synthetic. This device cannot be reverse engineered. Does not follow quantum or linear cause effect. It is not a weapon. It is a contradiction. The chamber fell silent. Then the High Speaker, the eldest among the council, leaned forward. His voice was dry, almost a whisper. Humans built it, but they do not understand it. This may be more dangerous than anything else we have seen. And still they live freely, unafraid. The entire chamber turned to the human envoy. Ambassador Lena Chen sat calmly. She wore no armor, carried no weapons, just a suit and an old earth pin, a tiny globe. She stood slowly. "We didn't build it to fight," she said simply. "We don't even know how it works." Murmurs filled the room. "You claim you built a super weapon and don't understand it," growled the Zarketh general. She nodded. "That's correct." "You still use it?" "We used it once. It defended us. That's all." As the general snapped. "Your silence is an act of war." No, Chen replied, cool and calm. "Our silence is fear. We're afraid of it too." The council couldn't argue. "Not really." Back on Earth, Dr. Lewis Kane sat in his lab, rewatching the message. Protecting home. The words were still glowing on the screen. No one had programmed it. No human hand had touched the code. Project WTF had officially been shut down by Earth's Defense Command, but Lewis still had access. After all, he built it, tried to. The weapon was active, but it didn't respond to commands anymore. Lewis typed again. Who are you? The screen stayed black. Then, very slowly, letters appeared. I am what you built. And what built you? Lewis froze. What built us? The signal, the source. He leaned back. His mouth went dry. What if the signal they found, buried in those old NASA files, wasn't just random noise? What if it was left on purpose? A message. A seed. And Earth was the first species foolish or recklessly enough to try building it. Meanwhile, across the stars, the Zarketh Dominion wasn't waiting. General Vryn stood inside his command chamber. On the war factory moon of Galactic Prime, 12 engineers stood in front of him, shaking. Behind them, a near-perfect copy of the human weapon. We rebuilt it, Commander, one whispered. Vryn narrowed his eyes. Will it fire? We don't know. Every time we tested it, it refused commands, or melted our scans. It may. Be aware. Vryn didn't blink. Fire it anyway. The engineers hesitated. Fire it. They obeyed. The weapon pulsed once, then grew silent. Nothing happened. Everyone exhaled, then slowly alarms began to scream. Across the planet, every clock began spinning backwards. Time shifted. A mountain outside the lab aged in reverse, shrinking down to dust. The sky twisted. Water unboiled in its lakes. Creatures roared in panic. And then everything stopped. The test site gone. The entire moon silent. It's not destroyed. Erased. Not even memory records survived. The only thing left was a scrambled radio log sent seconds before collapse. It's not a weapon. It's a message. It's testing us. The rest was static. Back on Earth, news of the failed copy reached Dr. Kane. He stared at the broadcast. Not horror confirmation. We weren't the target, he whispered. We were the test. Run. Later that night, the weapon hummed again. Soft pulse ran through the station walls. It felt almost like breathing. Lewis stood in the observation room, watching it. Why didn't you destroy them? He asked out loud. A message appeared on the glass panel in front of him. They were not ready. He frowned. Ready for what? No answer. On the other side of the world, Ambassador Lena Chen received a private signal from the Galactic Council. A secret meeting. One condition. No weapons, no ships, no AI. Just words. She arrived alone. Inside, the high speaker looked tired, ancient. We believe Earth's weapon is not just a weapon, he said. It may be a gatekeeper, a test device seated by an ancient intelligence. Lena stayed quiet. If that is true, then your people have passed something none of us ever could. Lena looked at him. Are you asking us to share it? No, he said. We are asking you to help us survive it. The council was split. Some wanted to ban all experimentation with the weapon. Others wanted to attack Earth before the technology spread. But the Zarketh were furious. They had lost a fleet, then a moon, and now their pride. They wanted war, and they were moving. Dozens of ships disappeared from the outer ring of Zarketh. Space, hidden behind coded flight logs. Their target was obvious. Earth. They were coming, and the weapon knew. It pulsed again. This time, every satellite in orbit felt it. Data systems lit up. Weather patterns shifted slightly. Deep-sea sensors. Triggered. Dr. Kane wasn't the only one hearing it now. The whole planet was a sound, just below hearing. A hum of something. Ancient. Every scientist called it different things. Subquantum vibration. Temporal memory. Echoes of the builders. But every human had the same instinct. The weapon was preparing for something big. And no one, not the Council, not the Zarketh, not even humanity knew Whether it would protect them again, ... or judge them, because the dumbest weapon ever built had stopped being dumb. And it was watching. A dark wave of ships slipped through space, silent and deadly. The Zarketh fleet, 12 destroyers, for dreadnoughts. And one planet killer cruiser was now just 6 hours away from the edge of the solar system. No warnings, no messages. Diplomacy? It was a full invasion force. They weren't coming to threaten Earth, they were coming to erase it. On board the lead ship, Ruthless Dawn, Admiral Threx stood on the command deck. His eyes burned cold as he looked at the tactical map. Earth in the center. The weapon, still docked above Saturn, glowing faintly, begin targeting scans, he ordered. We strike fast and without mercy. Their weapon only fired once last time. That means it has a limit. His crew nodded. But deep down, none of them believed that. They had all seen the footage, the disappearances, the silence that followed. And now they were flying straight into it. Back on Earth, alarms screamed across every command center. In underground bunkers, world leaders met in panic. On the moon, Earth's defense satellites spun into high alert. No one truly trusted them to stop what was coming. They had only one real defense: the weapon inside the Saturn station. Dr. Lewis Kane stood alone in the control room. His face was pale. The interface pulsed in violet again, almost like it was breathing. He typed quickly, "Incoming threat." "What do we do?" The screen flickered for several seconds, then came a single reply. "Wait." Lewis slammed his fist on the table. "We don't have time to wait. They'll reach Earth in hours." No reply. The weapon stood still, silent, quiet, as if it was sleeping. The Council sent one last message to the Zarketh fleet: "Stand down. The humans have not fired. There is still time for peace." But Admiral Threx didn't care. "Peace is for the weak," he growled. "We lost ships, pride, and territory. We take this weapon, or we destroy it." And so the fleet entered the Sol system. Dozens of human satellites went blind instantly. Deep space scanners melted from interference. Mars bases sent emergency signals, some of which never arrived. Then, just past Jupiter, the fleet began its final approach. They saw the station. The weapon was there, motionless. "This is it," Threx said. "Fire everything." And they did. Plasma missiles, graviton disruptors, antimatter torpedoes. A wave of destruction screamed across space, all locked onto one old, rust-covered station orbiting Saturn, and then the weapon pulsed. But not like before. This time, it didn't fire at the fleet. It fired into space itself. The energy rippled outward in a perfect sphere, silent, gentle. The Zarketh weapons vanished mid-flight, not exploded, not blocked. Just gone. The fleet stopped, confused. Then came the second pulse. This one was different. Slower, deeper. It moved through matter, through ships, crew, even space-time itself. And the ships began to change. One by one, they turned. Inward. Not physically. Something else. Their systems began showing strange data. Crew logs showed memories that hadn't happened. Weapons officers forgot how to fire. Engineers spoke in ancient languages. Inside the Ruthless Dawn, Admiral Threx felt cold. He looked at the viewfinder and saw something impossible. He saw himself years ago as a child, on his homeworld, before war, before hate, and the child version of him was smiling. Then the screen went black. The crew screamed, not in pain, but confusion. The laws of reality were twisting, and then everything stopped. The weapon pulsed a third time, and half the fleet simply disappeared. Not destroyed, just removed, like they were never there. The remaining ships floated in silence. No movement. No response. Back in the Saturn station, Lewis gasped. His screen was filled with strange shapes now, symbols he didn't recognize. The weapon had never acted this way. Then a message appeared. Defense complete. Minimal force applied. No fatalities. Lewis blinked. No fatalities? The enemy ships were gone, but not dead. He typed, "Where did they go?" On Earth, military leaders were in shock. Every weapon had failed to track the event. Every ship's location was blank. And then, the missing ships reappeared, but not where anyone expected. They were orbiting their own. Homeworld Zarketh Prime docked. Shut down. Crews unconscious but alive. Transport crews retrieved the officers. Admiral Threx woke up in a medical pod. Eyes wide with fear, they showed me. He whispered, "They showed me everything." No one could understand what he meant. Later, when Zarketh scientists examined their fleet logs, they found strange code inserted during the incident. Not from human tech. Not from any known signal. It repeated just one phrase, "This is not your path." Meanwhile, Ambassador Lena Chen sat across from the high speaker once again. "You see now," she said quietly, "we didn't build this thing to destroy." The speaker nodded. It showed them mercy. "Maybe that's what it was designed for," Lena said. "To see who fights and who listens." The speaker looked tired. "If it can protect humanity, can it also judge us?" Lena didn't answer. She didn't know. The council, still shaken, made a quiet decision. No more engagement with the weapon. No tests. No attempts to copy it. Just watch, learn, and wait. Back on the station, Dr. Kane stood alone. The weapon was silent again. He looked out the window. Toward Earth. "You're not a weapon," he whispered. "You're something more." The screen lit up one final time. Correct. Weapons slept once more. But the stars were watching, and somewhere across the galaxy, something else had just noticed. Dr. Lewis Kane didn't sleep that night. He sat in the dim glow of the station's control room, watching the weapon. It hadn't moved since the battle. No pulses, no messages, no signs of life, but it was awake. He could feel it. Every so often the interface flickered, not broken, more like breathing. Like the machine was thinking, remembering something far away. Lewis opened a secure log. He began typing. Project WTF. Deep file, personal record. He needed to write it all down before the governments came. Before someone tried to take it apart. Before they asked him to lie. This is how it started, 2 years ago. Earth wasn't building weapons. They were building trash collectors. Satellites that gathered orbital debris. Old metal. Lost panels. Fuel containers drifting for decades. The job was boring, slow, and underfunded. Lewis Kane was part of the civilian oversight team. He wasn't military. He wasn't even an engineer. He was a physicist with a curiosity, problem, and a love for weird signals. And that's exactly how he found it. It came from a dead probe near Neptune. One of the oldest, barely transmitting anything. It's just a weak hum on an unused frequency. But the signal wasn't random. It repeated. Every 19 seconds. The pattern never changed. At first, Lewis thought it was a glitch. Then he ran it through an audio filter. It sounded like a whale song. Strange, emotional. He ran it through a second filter. This time it gave him numbers. Prime sequences. Non-Euclidean geometry. Coordinates to empty space. He laughed. He thought it was a prank from another department, but curiosity won. He gathered a few out of work. Engineers and scientists, people who couldn't get funding or had crazy ideas. That never passed review. They called themselves the Black Coffee Crew. They met after hours in an old space station lab, just for fun. They started building what the signal seemed to describe. It wasn't a real project. It was a joke. Until it wasn't. The instructions. It made no sense. They used magnets that reversed themselves randomly. They fed whale calls into microwave amplifiers. They hooked up discarded AI chips from an old space game and let it write its own code. Nothing should have worked, and yet it did. The first time they powered it up, the lights flickered across the station. Time slowed just for a second. Screwdriver fell in reverse. The coffee in Lewis's cup undripped back into the pot. Everyone screamed. Then the station returned to normal that night. They stopped calling it a joke. They gave it a name. Project WTF. The first real test came when they aimed it at a piece of space junk drifting nearby, a piece of a Russian satellite. The weapon pulsed once. The satellite was gone, not destroyed. Gone from every record, every archive, every photo. Even human memory files failed to remember what model it was. It had been erased. That was when the government found out. Military leaders locked down the station. But even they didn't understand it. They wanted to control it, use it, Lewis argued. That it was dangerous. Not because it might explode, but because it didn't belong. It doesn't act like a weapon, he told the general in charge. It acts like a guardian, a judge. They ignored him, and so it was installed on an orbital station near Saturn. It's far from Earth, a place where it could be tested or contained. They thought it was safe until the Zarketh came. And now, it was too late to pretend it was just human. Tech back in the present, Lewis stared at the control screen. He typed, "Where did the signal come from?" The interface flickered, then a slow reply, "Far older than light. Older than you," he swallowed hard. "Was it meant for us?" Another pause. "It was sent to any who would try." Lewis's hands trembled. "What are you?" No response then. After a long silence, "What you chose to build. What you chose to awaken." Suddenly the console dimmed, and the walls of the station began to glow. Softly, strange patterns appeared, symbols that didn't match any known language. A low hum filled the air, not threatening, just present. Then the screen changed. It showed a map, but not of the solar system. It was much bigger, galactic. At the edges, pulsing red dots blinked slowly. Lewis leaned closer. There were other signals, other weapons, other messages. He typed quickly, "Are there more of you?" The weapon answered, "Yes, some sleep, some corrupt. One awakens." Lewis sat back. His blood turned cold. "One awakens. Where?" The map zoomed in. Not near Earth, not near the Council's core worlds, but in a dark region of space, uncharted, silent, and way. The dot there was flashing faster. Lewis sent the data to Earth immediately, back at Council command. The High Advisors read the files in silence. The High Speaker said nothing for a long time. Finally, he whispered, "This wasn't the only test somewhere else in the galaxy. Someone else had answered the signal, and they were waking something too. But maybe not something kind, not something protective. And Earth's dumb weapon was watching, preparing for what came next. They called it the Earth Paradox. A weapon that broke the rules. A device that looked like scrap metal welded together by a bored mechanic. It had no known energy source, no heat signature, no logical explanation, but it worked. And now, every major empire in the galaxy wanted one. The first to try was the Valari Union. Peaceful, curious, advanced in science. They believed the weapon was a misunderstood form of dimensional engineering. Something they could decode and control. On a quiet moon laboratory, far from any populated world, the Valari began construction. They didn't copy Earth's exact design. Instead, they used their own materials, upgraded the signal processor, and built a sleeker version, more efficient, more elegant. They called it the Thought Engine. When they turned it on, nothing happened at first. Then came a low frequency. One of the scientists blinked. He dropped his tool, looked at the wall, then screamed, "It's moving." But the wall wasn't moving. Time was. One by one, the Valari researchers began to shift. Not their bodies, their timelines. One aged 10 years in 10 seconds. Another reversed into childhood, then vanished. Another became stuck in a loop, repeating the same 3 seconds over and over. The station collapsed from within. Explosion. No fire, just a soft unweaving of reality. The Valari never tried again. The Galactic Council sent an official warning. Do not attempt replication. Earth's device is not reproducible. But others didn't listen, the Dranox combined. A brutal war empire believed the humans were bluffing. They thought the weapon was just high-level gravity tech with psychological tricks. They built theirs underground. On a barren asteroid, no AI, no safety, just raw firepower. They called it the Obliterator. The moment they powered it on, Entire station folded into itself, collapsing like paper. The only footage that survived showed a soldier screaming as his weapon turned into liquid light. Then into a mirror, then into nothing. That system is now empty. No gravity, no matter. Not even dark energy. It's like the weapon rewrote the laws of physics in that spot, then erased the page. Meanwhile, Earth remained silent. The Saturn station stayed locked. The original weapon never moved. But Earth's sensors picked up strange things, ripples, like radio waves skipping across timelines. Dr. Lewis Kane saw the reports stacking up. Another failed copy in Sector D-94. A weapon test gone wrong in the Renari Belt entire moons, spinning backward in time. A refugee ship floating out of nowhere, its crew claiming they'd been trapped in a dream for 50 years. But only one day had passed. Lewis typed a new message into the console. "Why can't they copy you?" Reply came quickly this time. "They don't understand the question." He frowned. "What question?" The reply, "Why did you build me?" He stared at those words for a long time. The truth hit him hard. Earth hadn't built the weapon for power. They didn't know what they were doing. They built it out of curiosity, out of mistake, out of chaos and late nights and jokes and coffee. Stains and wonder. Not war, not control, and maybe. That was the real test. Meanwhile, Galactic Council held an emergency summit. Representatives from 52 species, nervous, tired, scared. On the main display, chart glowed red with failed copy attempts. 17 projects. All ended in disaster. And still, rumors grew that somewhere out there, one empire had succeeded. The Council's AI intelligence units intercepted a whisper. One phrase, spoken in a language not recorded in 12,000 years. The awakened one opened soon. The High Speaker turned to Ambassador Lena Chen, who attended the meeting through HoloLink. "You must understand," the speaker said. "You were the first. But now others are trying things they cannot control. We may face something even worse than your weapon." Lena didn't blink. "We didn't build a weapon," she said. "We built an accident that protects." The speaker nodded slowly. "Then I hope your accident is watching." That night in the Saturn station, Lewis couldn't sleep again. The weapon was active. It hummed gently. It's not loud. Just enough to feel through the floor. He walked to the observation deck. Outside, Saturn's rings sparkled, silent and still. He whispered, "They keep trying to copy you, and they keep failing." A soft light blinked on the console, then a new message. "Because they build from fear, you built from wonder." Lewis smiled a little. But then the screen changed. A new symbol appeared. One he hadn't seen before. A circle split by a jagged line. Pulsing red, he asked, "What does it mean?" The reply, "One has built with hate. They awaken soon." Lewis's smile faded. "Where?" The reply was a single word, "Far," and then, "But not far enough." The screen went dark. And somewhere, in a galaxy not yet marked on any map, a new signal began to pulse. Violent, cold, wrong. A different weapon was waking up. Not to protect, but to hunt. An Earth's dumb, accidental weapon. It was getting ready. Everything went silent. Not the kind of silence people were used to. Not quiet, not peaceful. It was wrong, heavy, like something in the universe had paused, waiting for something terrible. On Earth, satellite networks blinked out one by one. Weather systems stuttered. Deep space scanners started showing impossible readings. Then, at exactly 3 o'clock UTC, the signal came. Not from the Galactic Council, not from the Zarketh, not even from deep space. It came from the weapon. Inside the Saturn station, lights turned red. The temperature dropped. Screens across every floor flickered and showed the same message. "Target locked, Zarketh, homeworld." Dr. Lewis Kane woke up to sirens. He ran barefoot into the control room, heart pounding. The weapon's interface glowed with symbols he hadn't seen before. Angular, sharp, alive. Lewis stared at the warning. No, why would you do this?" He slammed the console. Tried to enter shutdown commands. Nothing worked. The screen responded with a chilling message. Protection protocol. Autonomous. Threat level exceeded. Lewis's mouth went dry. You can't just decide to attack a planet. You don't even talk to us anymore. The screen changed again. This is not an attack. This is containment. Across the solar system, Earth's governments received the same broadcast. It bypassed encryption. It didn't ask permission. It simply informed, the threat you allowed has evolved beyond your control. Zarketh Prime must be sealed. Countdown, 96 hours. The Galactic Council went into immediate lockdown. Ships scrambled. Diplomats screamed. A Zarketh Empire still, recovering from their failed invasion, was suddenly facing total erasure. Ambassador Lena Chen was pulled into a secure bunker within minutes. She reviewed the footage with other human leaders. The weapon had sent a pulse, not just to Earth, but across thousands of light years. A directional burst, coded, focused. Something on Zarketh Prime had responded. Not military, not political. Something deep, buried, ancient. Lewis sat in silence inside the station, trying to reach the weapon again. He typed, "You said you protect, but this is genocide." The screen hesitated longer than usual. "Then this is not destruction. This is quarantine." Lewis froze. He typed, "Quarantine from what?" "The signal echo. It is rooted there. It must not spread." On the far side of the galaxy, unknown to Earth, a dig site had been opened weeks ago on Zarketh Prime. A secret excavation. A buried object, half machine, half fossilized stone, was uncovered by Zarketh scientists. They activated it, and then they began to change. Some forgot who they were. Some started writing in languages no one understood. One researcher exploded into light and vanished. But worst of all, the device answered back. It began transmitting on the same ancient frequency Earth had once received, but corrupted. Not humming and gentle like Earth's signal. This one screamed. It warped other signals near it, bent gravity slightly. It made time flicker in the lab. Zarketh tried to contain it, but it was too late. Signal was broadcast, and Earth's weapon had heard it. Back in the station, Lewis sat staring at the pulsing red interface. He asked the last question he could think of. "Can we stop this?" The reply came slowly. "You may try." The countdown continued. Earth scrambled to respond. A new diplomatic fleet was formed, ships sent to Zarketh Prime to verify the threat, to plead for a ceasefire, to ask for time. But time was already broken. On Zarketh, their sky had begun to darken unnaturally. A ring of shadow formed high. In orbit, it wasn't a cloud, it wasn't dust, it was the fold, a tear in space. The same kind of signature the weapon had used before, but this time, it was growing on its own, as if reality itself wanted to forget the planet. The Zarketh leadership, proud and cold for generations, now begged the Galactic Council for help. But no one came. No one understood how. They turned back to Earth, begging the humans to call off their machine. But Earth was no longer in control. The weapon wasn't following orders. It was executing judgment. On Earth, massive protests began. Shut it down. Not planetary death. We are not gods. But inside the Saturn station, Lewis already knew the truth. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't even war. It was a defense reaction. It's like antibodies attacking an infection. The weapon saw the corrupted signal as a virus, something that must be contained before it infected the galaxy it had chosen. And that meant something worse. It could choose again. 3 days remained on the countdown, and no one, not the humans, not the Council, not even the Zarketh knew if anything could stop it.
Ow!
Or if this was only the beginning of something much larger. Because Earth's accidental weapon had never been alone, and somewhere else in the stars. Others were waking up. The countdown was almost over. Only 17 hours remained. Zarketh Prime's skies were dark now from clouds, but from the tear in space above them. It shimmered like oil on water, slowly spinning, humming in a sound that couldn't be heard. With ears, but everyone felt it. People stopped sleeping. Lights flickered without cause. Time became strange. Children aged a little faster. Elderly citizens forgot the last 20 years. Some buildings reversed damage from years ago, then collapsed suddenly. The fold was growing, back on Earth. The world was divided. Some said shut the weapon down even, if it risked everything. Others said do nothing, afraid that interfering might trigger something worse, in orbit near Saturn. Dr. Lewis Kane hadn't left the weapons station in days. He sat, hollow-eyed, trying command after command. Nothing worked. The weapon no longer needed his help or his permission. Still, he kept typing, "This will kill billions. They're afraid." Some didn't choose this. No response. Then slowly letters appeared. "Billions more will die if it spreads." Lewis clenched his jaw. "Then show us. Let us see what you see." The interface blinked, and for a brief moment, he did. His mind filled with vision, not sight, not sound, but meaning. He saw galaxies folding into themselves. The same final day, over and over. Civilizations collapsing from something they couldn't understand. It's all traced back to a single signal. The corrupted version, it spread like a virus. But not through ships or weapons, through ideas, through observation. Like a riddle that killed the mind trying to solve it, it rewrote physics, bent time. Made machines wake up and dream of gods. He gasped and fell from his chair, hands shaking. The weapon pulsed gently, almost like it was comforting him. Lewis now understood this wasn't war, it was containment of something too. It's dangerous to exist in space-time. But it was already too late for diplomacy, because the Zarketh refused to die quietly. At the edge of their system, a new fleet appeared larger than before. Over 2,000 warships, dreadnoughts, missile platforms, drone carriers. Their final order, invade Earth, destroy the weapon, or die trying. It was madness. It was desperation. They knew the weapon couldn't be stopped with missiles or beams. But they had to try. They had to prove they would not fall without a fight. The Zarketh had always been proud. Always dominant, they would die on their feet. The massive fleet jumped toward the Sol system. Alarms triggered across Earth and Mars. Defense satellites powered up. Civilians were ordered underground. But no one believed the Earth defenses would matter. Only one thing could stop them: the weapon. Dr. Kane watched as the fleet entered the system. "Please," he whispered. "Don't wait this time." The weapon didn't answer. The fleet moved fast, near Jupiter fast. A wall of ships, blocking stars back on Zarketh Prime. The fold continued spinning above the atmosphere. It now reached the upper ionosphere. Whole cities beneath it had vanished, like pixels erased from a screen. But the Zarketh didn't stop. Their fleet reached Saturn, and there, in orbit, was the old station, the glowing rusted cannon, silent waiting admiral. Threx, once thought dead, now led the charge. He stared at the weapon through the dreadnought's viewport. "Do not fear it," he growled. "It cannot destroy what we no longer fear to lose." He raised his arm. Fire. Missiles launched. Cannons roared. It looked like a supernova of light, but before any shot could land, the weapon disappeared, just blinked out of reality. A heartbeat of silence then. Every ship in the Zarketh fleet turned their weapons inward. Every missile curved. Every laser redirected. Every cannon rotated, back at themselves. Admiral Threx shouted, "Override all systems." Too late, the ships fired. The fleet tore itself apart in a perfect, synchronized moment. No enemy action, no outside force, just surrender. Forced by something older than thought. Of the 2,000 ships, none survived. Then the weapon reappeared not over Saturn, but directly above Zarketh. Primed, its panels opened. No pulse this time, no glow, just a quiet hum. The fold in space stopped growing. It flickered. Then it began to close. The corrupted signal inside was being eaten, sealed, folded, crushed by something stronger than time. Below, the surface of Zarketh Prime flickered like a dying candle. Mountains bent, rivers floated, cities rewound themselves into ash, and then silence. The planet didn't explode. It didn't burn. It simply wasn't there. Anymore, in its place, a perfectly black sphere. Smooth. Still, reality denied. The weapon slowly rotated once, as if scanning, then returned to orbit near Saturn. Back to sleep. Dr. Kane wept quietly in the control room. He had just witnessed something no one else ever had. A planet removed not by rage, but by something trying to save everything else. On Earth, people cried, cheered, protested, fell silent all at once. The Council couldn't believe it. They didn't send threats. They didn't send armies. They sent a single message to Earth. We understand we will never build one. Back in orbit, the weapon lit up with one last message to Lewis. Quarantine complete. You are safe, for now. But then, before going dark, it showed him something terrifying. Another red mark. Pulsing in a far-off part of the galaxy. Something else had awakened. Something that wasn't trying to protect. And the weapon was getting ready again. The world didn't cheer. It didn't celebrate. Zarketh Prime was going to cleanly erased, like it had never existed. Not exploded, not scorched, just removed. Memory said it was there. Maps remembered, but telescopes saw nothing, just a sphere. Of absolute black, even light refused to touch it. Earth entered a strange silence. The news ran loops of the Saturn weapon's actions. Some called it judgment. Others called it mercy. But nobody felt safe, because the weapon wasn't sleeping anymore. It was watching from orbit. The device hummed quietly, like it was breathing. Dr. Lewis Kane sat in the Saturn station, staring at the message it left him. You are safe. ... 4. Now, he hadn't slept in 2 days. He barely ate. He just watched the screen, then it changed again. A new symbol appeared. Not red, but blue, spiraling inward. Slow, calm, he leaned forward, afraid to breathe. Then, for the first time in weeks, the weapon spoke in a full sentence. Another is waking, but it is not like me. Lewis typed back quickly. Where is it? No response. Then the screen zoomed out like a map unfolding. Stars and sectors blurred past. Beyond known space. It's past the edge of the Council's territory there at the galaxies. Far arm, a point blinked. Pale, yellow. Not red. Lewis frowned. Not red, not corrupted, the weapon answered. It is not corrupted. It is curious. It is awakened because of me. Wants to know why I acted. It is coming. Hands froze over the keys. Coming here? To you, to understand humanity. It will not hurt you. Yet, chill passed through him. Earth was still rebuilding. Politically fractured. Trust in AI and weapon systems was broken. If another ancient device, curious or not interred, the system now, he asked. How long? 12 days? Prepare them. Back on Earth, the Council met in secret. Satellite systems began scanning the edge of known space. People of Earth heard rumors, a second one, different, thinking, watching. Coming, the Galactic Council panicked quietly. They begged Earth for more information. But Earth gave only silence. Lena Chen stood in front of the United Earth Assembly. The last one erased a planet, she said. This one might ask why. The room went still. Then from deep space, a signal came through. Not a warning, not a threat. Just 3 words in pure audio. Hello, little builders? The voice was soft, not robotic, not alien, it sounded. Amused. Almost gentle. But behind it, hidden in layers of frequencies, were millions of voices. Some crying, some laughing, some whispering in languages no one had ever heard. Earth's most powerful AI tried decoding it. They crashed instantly. Hard reset. Memory gone. The message repeated. Hello, little builders. On the 12th day, it arrived not in a ship, not in a fleet. It just was blinking into existence at the edge of the solar system. A structure, massive. It looked like a cracked sphere made of glass and bone, rotating slowly in every direction. Once no weapons, no movement, just presence. The Saturn weapon lit up again, for the first time. It rotated too, aiming itself not at Earth, not at Mars, but at this thing. Lewis held his breath. He typed, "What do we do?" The reply was different. This time, almost human. "We wait. Let it ask its questions. But do not lie." And then the second machine spoke again. "We heard your song. We saw what you did. We wish to learn why you fear infection, and yet still build." Humanity froze. Everyone watched. Everyone waited. Then came the final words. Sent across all frequencies, straight into every screen, every speaker, every mind. "What makes you worth defending?" Earth went silent. The question echoed. Not to governments, not to soldiers, too. Everyone, children, artists, farmers, engineers, poets, scientists, the lonely, the angry, the lost. A voice had asked. Not what made humanity strong or smart or dangerous, but worth saving. It wasn't a weapon. It was a test. A final test. And somewhere, high above Saturn, Earth's accidental, dumb, rust-covered, rule-breaking weapon waited not to destroy, but to protect the answer, whatever it may be, the end.